Hello Whovians, Crispy Bro here, and welcome back to the channel. Yeah, this channel has got some serious legs at the moment, so if you are new, hi, hello, I'm Crispy. Thanks for joining our little whatever this is. And if you're not subscribed, why don't you consider subscribing? I'm gonna get a Doctor Who tattoo at 20,000 because that seems like a smart idea. So today we are talking about a controversial figure, Sir Christopher Chibnall. I have this kind of series on my channel where I talk about some of the valid criticisms towards people in the Doctor Who universe, and I say what I think are valid and what I think is just ridiculous. So today I'm just gonna express my opinion towards Chris Chibnall. And I'm also joined today by fellow YouTuber Channel Pup. He'll be later in the video, so get keen for that. Disclaimer. Big old disclaimer. This is just my opinion. I'm not here to stir controversy. I'm not here to start fights in the comment section. I'm just expressing an opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but this is not malicious, okay? For this video talking about our current head writer, Chris Chibnall, I'm gonna break it up into 3 separate parts: the past, the present, and the future. Sounds pretty cool, right? So strap yourselves in. It's gonna be a cool one. So I heart the Doctor. What's that all about? Chris Chibnall was announced to take over from Stephen Moffat as head writer on Doctor Who around January 2016. And when you think about it, that feels like an absolute lifetime ago. That was before season 10. And here was my reaction to the news back in the day.
Chris Chibnall's first series as head writer. He's the new head writer. He has previously written for Doctor Who and Torchwood. He's done a lot of stuff before, so it's a pretty good choice. So it's quite obvious that Chris Chibnall can, carry his own show and deliver quality content.
So yeah, I think I was pretty on board with the idea of Chris Chibnall taking over as head writer of Doctor Who. Mainly because Broadchurch is one of my all-time favorite shows ever. I thought the casting, the cinematography, and the writing was just brilliant, and that of course was Chris Chibnall's show that he was the head writer on. Pretty sure he wrote every episode. And it was just phenomenal television, honestly, blew my mind. And of course, he was basically head writer on the Doctor Who spin-off show Torchwood. Well, I mean, it was Russell T Davies' baby, Torchwood, but Chris Chibnall came in and basically adopted the child, and he was a fatherly figure to Torchwood. Does that metaphor work? I don't really know. So for Chris Chibnall's resume, he does have a show-running background, he can manage a TV show. And of course it helps that he was a Doctor Who fan, a nitpicky one at that, like we all are.
Routine Doctor Who, very much what the audience is expecting. It's not really very challenging for them to watch.
Also, before he was showrunner, he did pen a few stories for Doctor Who, like 42 and Cold Blood and Hungry Earth and Dinosaurs on a Spaceship and Power of 3. Did I get them all? I think I did. And in my eyes, I feel like those 5 stories are not necessarily Chris Chibnall's best work. Broadchurch is just top tier, and he did have some really good Torchwood episodes, but for some reason his Doctor Who stories, I don't know, they never really gripped me, or they're not memorable in my mind. Although I will say, out of those 5, I'm pretty sure Dinosaurs on the Spaceship is the best. I know a lot of you won't agree on that one, but I think it's a perfect popcorn episode, switch off your brain, and just Doctor Who goodness. But anyway, I feel like a lot of people were optimistic and had high expectations for Chris Chibnall coming into the role because, he was on that high of Broadchurch and did have prior Doctor Who experience. Would I have said that he was my first choice for showrunner? Honestly, I think I would have preferred someone like Neil Gaiman coming into the role because he's done great stuff with Good Omens. But I don't think Chris Chibnall back in the day was necessarily a bad decision. Or was it? Cringe. Doctor Who is such a crazy show. Chris Chibnall has now been in the role of showrunner for a lot of years now. And I thought Stephen Moffat copped a lot of the hate during his tenure, which I never really understood. I honestly think Stephen Moffat was an excellent showrunner, but that's a separate conversation. But Chibnall's hate compared to Moffat, now in retrospect, Moffat gets treated like a god. All hail Moffat. So the first thing that Chibnall was really insistent on was casting a female Doctor. That was his plan. As soon as he got the job of showrunner, he's like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. So no males were considered for the role of the 13th Doctor. And personally, I was so on board with that because I feel like a lot of people were on board with Missy, the Master, being female. So I thought that was more like a trial run to see if the Doctor could one day be a female. But no, the internet's reaction was was very, very interesting, but I will not get into that because I know enough people have already disliked this video. Jodie Whittaker debuted as the 13th Doctor on the 7th of October 2018 with the premiere of The Woman Who Fell to Earth. And upon initial release, it got pretty good reviews. And then the rest of Series 11 happened, and you know, it got interesting. It started off all right, didn't it? It went The Woman Who Fell to Earth, then the Ghost Monument, then Rosa. I feel like that's a pretty good start. The Ghost Monument being the weakest out of those three. But then after that, we just had these stories that I personally, I don't think are all that memorable. I still did find the series as a whole enjoyable, with a few highlights here and there, particularly Ryan and Graham's relationship being one of them. And yes, there were moments when it did seem that Chris Chibnall did have some kind of agenda he wanted to push. Even though Doctor Who pushing agendas or political correctness is nothing new. Doctor Who is such a crazy show. But because Chris Chibnall was so adamant on casting a female as the 13th Doctor, I feel like a lot of people were already in a negative mindset going into Chris's series. Series 11 was trying to start fresh and new and bold and exciting, having singular episodes, Monster of the Week, trying to reel in some new viewership, you know, make it more accessible to a mainstream audience. Because Moffat's style of writing and showrunning, you know, he had a lot of timey-wimey stuff which might not, you know, be as accessible to the general public. So I could see Chris's mindset, I could see why he wanted Series 11 to be the way it was. Should it have been? In Series 11, there was no story arc, there was no two-parters, and there was no classic villain. So it was a bit of a strange one, and I feel like no one was really expecting that. And in my humble opinion, I thought Series 11 was alright, bit of a letdown. Series 11 took place in 2018, and then in 2019 we had a gap year. Everyone's favorite. Who doesn't love a gap year? Then 2020 came around and we started 2020 right off with Series 12 and oh, wowee. Series 12, you sly dog. After Series 11, I had lower expectations for Series 12. But man, I shouldn't have, because that season was quite good. It had story arc, two-parters, classic villains, and a surprise or three. When Series 12 came around, I feel like the Doctor Who community became a little less toxic, which was nice to see. And everyone started responding like really positively, and I didn't feel like I was being criticized for something that I'd liked for years and years. But in saying this, Series 12 was not a perfect series. It was really fun, but it did come with its own controversy of the timeless child. I don't really want to talk about it because I know there's a lot of people getting ready to type on their keyboards going, ah! I will get into it one day, but I still feel like we don't have the full picture. They did obviously touch on it a lot in the Timeless Children. We'll have to wait until Series 13. We might get some more answers, and then you can be angry at me. And Christopher Chibnall. But regardless, I feel like Chris Chibnall's Series 12 was definitely a step in the right direction. I feel like Chris Chibnall's writing vastly improved. Like, I think he finally figured out how to write Jodie's Doctor properly. He gave Jodie's Doctor more to do, and that was genuinely exciting, you know, to watch week to week. Apart from Orphan 55. Anyways, to the future. Apparently, word on the street is that Chris Chibnall has a 5-year plan. This was something he said way back in 2016. It's been covered in various videos on this platform, so I won't get too into it, but it basically states that Chris Chibnall had a 5-year plan for Doctor Who, what his Doctor Who was gonna be. But as I said, he said that years and years ago, and a lot has happened since then. And I know Chris Chibnall doesn't claim to read reviews, but someone higher up has to, because I feel like with the jump in quality from Series 11 to Series 12, you know, he had to have been listening to something. I think criticisms can be valid and help people improve their work, and I feel like that's what Chris Chibnall did. So with the backlash he received with Series 11, I wonder if his 5-year plan has changed. A lot of people have theorized that Chris Chibnall is building up to something that will meet its climax in the 60th anniversary, which will take place in 2023. And that is a long way away, so we'll see how that goes. Personally, I do feel like, you know, something is building up. Like Series 11 was the base. Series 12 was like, oh, here we go, and then hopefully Series 13 just goes I know Chris is a talented writer, and I honestly feel like he's not using his full potential of what his version of Doctor Who could be. We recently did a Who Busters episode, and Chris Chibnall came up in conversation, and my mate Will brought up this brilliant point about each showrunner's era and how they feel.
Because Moffat, you know, established the show as like a fairy tale. Then Russell T Davies established it as like a home thing. Everyone's got a family and all that.
Yeah.
There's no Chibnall era vibe yet, apart from 3 locations an episode. That's the only thing he's established in his era.
I think that is an absolutely excellent point, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the main things that people hate about Chris Chibnall's era. Like it doesn't have an identity yet. It's just kind of there and looks pretty. But anyways, before I leave you, I asked Channel Pup what he thought about this whole Chris Chibnall situation, and here's what he had to say.
I think the truth about Chris Chibnall is I know where people are coming from when they have negative things to say about his writing, or the direction of the show or whatever, but I think he tends to get a bit overhated. I think things tend to get blown out of proportion. I personally find him to be a little bit reductive. Like, Doctor Who has definitely been streamlined under him, I'll give it that. But with that, things do get lost, and to some people, these things are part of what makes the blood of Doctor Who. It's not as explorative and creative as it maybe once was, but I can definitely appreciate his more contemporary vision for the show. I think this approach is something Doctor Who needed, but they just need to find a way to balance that with Doctor Who's more sort of monster B-movie aspects. I think Series 12 definitely showed some improvement. At the same time, while I don't mind the twist that came along with Series 12, I can understand why other people are pretty upset by it. But like, there's something Stephen Moffat said recently on the matter, is kind of in a way Doctor Who isn't really canon. It's got quite a fluid sense of timeline. Or as they say in the show, it's a big ball of wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey stuff. While there may be big revelations about the Doctor's history, this doesn't necessarily have to have any kind of impact on previous Doctor Who stories. Because in a sense, every time there's a new showrunner, there's a new vision, and in that case it kind of gets rebooted, and I guess what that reboot chooses to take along the way comes down to that reboot. Every era of the modern show has retconned something from the classic series in some way. With Russell T Davies, it was the Doctor venturing back to the genesis of the Daleks that started the Time War. With Moffat, it was the Doctor's reasons for leaving Gallifrey coming down to a hybrid creature, as well as Clara in many respects being kind of the seed of the Doctor, and the retcon of the Time War, and with Chris Chibnall we've got the Timeless Child. It's really nothing new. Honestly, to me, it's inoffensive at worst. As long as it's entertaining, I'm fine. While Series 11 didn't do that for me, Series 12 definitely did.
Thank you very much for that, Channel Pup. If you haven't subscribed, excellent content, go and do that right now. Not right now, I'm gonna finish the video, but soon. So, in conclusion, why do people hate Chris Chibnall? In the wise words of Clara Oswald, hate is too strong of an emotion to waste on something you don't like. And I feel like a lot of people are not really a fan of Chris Chibnall's work because this is not what they imagined Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who being like. I imagine these absolutely wild story arcs with, you know, really compelling characters, and these mysteries that made all of us turn into bloody conspiracy theorists. I feel like a lot of people expected the show to take a little bit more of a serious turn while still having that light-hearted nature, and I feel like a lot of people expected way less companions and more developed companions. I am, however, optimistic about the program, and am keen to see what Chris Chibnall does going further. I do not hate the guy personally at all. I quite like him. But I would be lying that this is not what I imagined his Doctor Who looking like. That's it. That's the point of this video. But hey, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Chris Chibnall. Do you like him? Are you not the biggest fan? Do you feel like Series 12 was an improvement? Are you optimistic going forward here? Let me know down below and I'll reply, you know, give it a like, that little love tap thing, whatever. Please be civil in the comments. I don't want anyone like picking fights with anyone. We have a lot of fun here on the channel, so hashtag crispy for showrunner. But yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you have not already. We are very close to 20,000 when I'll get a Doctor Who tattoo. And yeah, have an awesome day. Weekly videos. Yep. Allons-y!